7 insane true teacher horror stories that will haunt your school year forever. The chill ran down your spine as the bell rang, echoing through the empty halls of Maplewood High. Just last week, a teacher had vanished without a trace, leaving only a shattered mug stained with dark coffee and an unsettling whisper of fear in the air. It was a typical September morning, but the other kids were already talking about the strange occurrences. Had you heard about the janitor who claimed he saw shadows dancing in the old classroom? Or the rumor that eerie messages were appearing on the chalkboard when no one was around? Each day, something bizarre unfolded in that school. A senior, Jenna, swore her gym teacher had a collection of old photos of previous students, only to discover they were all missing now. How could a teacher forget her class? Yet, Jenna couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, especially when her wrestling coach often lingered too long in the doorway, eyes like dark holes. There were unsettling stories of a science teacher who seemed to glow in the dark, vanishing into thin air whenever students tried to confront him about the mysterious experiments he conducted behind locked doors. The faint whirring of strange machines could be heard, rattling against metal shelves as you walked by, making you jump at every little creak. Who knew what he was cooking up in there? Kids, let's keep it focused today. Mr. Clarks, the history teacher, yelled one afternoon, his voice cracking with an intensity that made every student stop breathing in unison. Was it just your imagination, or did his shadow stretch further than before, creeping across the classroom floor? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As whispers about Mr. Clark spiraled, a ripple of dread washed over the school. Students began to form groups, exchanging furtive glances, sharing glances of horror at each other's stories. They felt it, a frigid wind sweeping through Maplewood, brushing past the lockers like a warning. What if the stories held a dark truth? Were the teachers hiding something? When Jenna opened her locker, a note slipped out, its words barely legible but burned into her mind. You'll never find out what happened. And just then, the lights flickered violently, plunging the entire school into an unsettling darkness, followed by distant laughter echoing in the hallway. A collective gasp filled the air. What lay in store for them in the shadows? The darkness swallowed them whole, thick and suffocating. The whispers grew louder, twisting into frantic screeches, a cacophony of terror that clawed at their minds. Jenna's heart pounded in her chest as she stumbled through the pitch-black corridor, guided only by the faint light streaming from her phone. Shadows danced ominously on the walls, and the laughter echoed again, slicing through the silence like a knife. Where is everyone? Jenna shouted, her voice trembling. There was no answer. Panic bubbled up inside her, rising like bile in her throat. With each step, the air grew colder, and a sense of dread clung to her like a wet blanket. Just last week, they were all giggling over their phones, clueless about the horrors lurking just beneath the surface. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows at the far end of the hallway, illuminated by a flicker of emergency lighting. It was Mr. Clark's, his face stark and pale, eyes wide and wild. You shouldn't be here, it's not safe. He croaked, grasping the door frame like a lifeline. For a heartbeat, Jenna felt a flicker of relief. Then the weight of his words settled in. We were just in class. What's happening? Jenna managed to stutter. Mr. Clarks hesitated, glancing over his shoulder, unease etched in his features. You must leave this place. They don't want you to know. A strange noise reverberated from the science lab nearby. The faint whirring she had heard before morphed into a low, sinister hum. The sound vibrated through her bones, urging her to run. But curiosity chained her feet to the floor. The flickering lights cast elongated shadows, transforming the familiar walls into a gallery of nightmares. Do you hear that? Jenna asked, her voice scarcely above a whisper. Mr. Clark shook his head fiercely. No, You can't listen to it. Ignoring his pleading gaze, she took a cautious step toward the lab, her instincts screaming at her to stop. The door stood ajar, darkness swirling within. It beckoned her like a wicked siren, promising secrets long buried. As she edged closer, Jenna caught a flash of movement, a figure standing at the back of the room. Heart racing, she surprised herself with her bravery. She pushed the door open wider. The inside was chaotic, a nightmare blended with science. Glass beakers bubbled with bright, unnatural colors and strange machines throbbed with energy. And there, hovering mid-air, were dozens of photographs, each one a ghostly silhouette of students who had vanished throughout the years. Their eyes seemed to follow her, filled with despair. A cold shiver of realization washed over her. The photos were the missing kids. "What have you done?" she cried out. Just then, a hand clamped down on her shoulder, a vice of fear that sent jolts down her spine. She whipped around to find the janitor standing there, his expression grave. "You need to leave, now," he urged, looking as though he had seen the depths of hell itself. Jenna's heart raced with confusion. Why did he care? Was he involved? But before she could form another thought, the lights flickered out again, and the silence that fell was heavier than before. The shadows stretched, morphing into something malevolent. What was lurking in the corners? Someone was whispering her name, drawing her closer to the unknown horrors. Just as the shadows lunged forward, a blaring siren shrieked through the school, cutting through the dark. Was it a warning or a call for help? Jenna couldn't tell. But she had to make a choice, face the horror ahead or flee into the unknown. With a deep breath, she braced herself. Whatever truth was hidden within Maplewood's walls, she was determined to uncover it, even if it cost her everything. And then she heard the voice again, clearer this time. You won't escape. An icy dread settled deep in her bones as she realized, whatever was chasing her was just getting started. What other secrets lay hidden in the shadows of Maplewood High? Jenna's heart raced as the siren wailed louder, her brain battling between the urge to flee and the pull to discover the sinister truth hidden in the lab. The shadows clawed at her, whispering her name in voices drenched in malice. She turned back to Mr. Clark's, desperate for guidance, but he had vanished, leaving her alone in the darkness. "Hello?" she called out, her words bouncing around the room with an unsettling echo. The weight of the silence pressed in on her, a tangible fog that threatened to suffocate her. Summoning her courage, Jenna stepped further into the lab, her phone's light illuminating the chaos. Beakers bubbled ominously, they pulsed with colors that felt otherworldly, as if concocted from nightmares. From the back of the room, the figure flickered into view again, moving like smoke, fluid and ethereal. It seemed almost familiar but morphed into shadow whenever she tried to focus. Jenna's breath hitched. Was it one of the missing students? Are they trapped here too? Can you help me? She whispered, instinctively drawn toward the figure. It nodded slowly, its face a blur. Panic rushed through Jenna like electricity. She took a cautious step forward. The air crackled with tension, vibrating under the weight of unseen forces. Don't listen, run. The words sliced through the tension, unmistakably the janitor's voice. But Jenna was rooted to the spot, her feet entwined in fear and fascination. Anxiety knotted in her gut, but she couldn't turn back now. She had to know what was happening. Suddenly, she felt a presence moving closer, an icy breath brushing against her neck. A quick glance over her shoulder confirmed her worst fear. Something was coming, a tangible shape emerging out of the swirling darkness. Jenna turned back to the figure, pleadingly. What do you want? The shadow hesitated, then pointed a trembling finger toward the bubbling beakers. Without taking her eyes off it, Jenna felt the cold seeping through her skin. A part of her screamed to leave, but where would she go? The walls of the lab felt like they were closing in. Before she could decide, one of the beakers erupted, sending a splash of luminous liquid cascading toward her. Jenna stumbled backward just in time, her heart hammering wildly. The figure writhed, dissolving into smoke, fading like a bad dream. It was gone, leaving nothing but an echo of despair. Help! Her voice cracked, but the world outside felt miles away. The siren's wails faded to whispers, and for a moment, a heavy silence settled. Those pictures, the lost students were trapped in this nightmare, and now it seemed she might be next at no time to think. She had to act. Jenna dashed to the nearest beaker, grabbing it as the shadows lunged from the corners, hungry and desperate. Gripping her phone like it was a lantern against the encroaching night, she hurled the beaker against the wall. The glass shattered, splattering the strange liquid everywhere. But instead of darkening, the room erupted into blinding light as the energy from the beakers surged to life, illuminating the dark corners once and for all. She could see them now, the students, no longer images but echoes trapped in despair, their eyes wide with silent cries for liberation. A scream built in Jenna's throat, but before she could unleash it, the lights began to flicker violently. The walls trembled, shaking with rage as though the school itself was alive and revolting against her. "Get out!" Another voice yelled, pulling her from her trance. She spun around to see the janitor rushing toward her through the chaos. "You must leave now." But with the shadows roaring and the light fading, Jenna hesitated only for an instant. "What are you hiding?" she shouted back, feeling bold despite the terror crawling up her spine, his face clouded with pain. The janitor's eyes pleaded with her. "The truth can destroy you. Will you risk it?" Then, before she could respond, the shadows rushed forward. The decision was made for her. Jenna turned and ran, but as she did, the laughter that had haunted her before filled the air, mocking her retreat. Panic tightened her chest, each footfall echoing the heartbeat of something dark and dangerous. What truth was worth this madness? Would she ever glimpse the horrors behind Maplewood's facade? And then a voice whispered again, this time clearer, deeper, "You'll never escape the darkness of the truth." What awaited her outside? Would she find answers, or would she only run deeper into the shadows? Jenna sprinted into the hallway, her heart a wild drum in her chest. The air outside the lab felt colder, as if the building itself was exhaling a breath of despair. She didn't dare look back. The laughter echoed down the corridor like a distant storm, taunting her, urging her to turn around. "Where do I go?" she muttered, her pulse quickening as she skidded to a halt. The hallway split into 3 paths. Each direction looked equally foreboding, shadows pooling like ink in every corner. She felt dizzy, trapped in a labyrinth where the walls whispered secrets she wasn't ready to hear. Stumbling down the center path, she could hear whispers trailing behind her, curling around her ankles like vines. They seemed to echo the thoughts she couldn't shake. What if this is a trap? What if the truth is just more horror? As she rounded a corner, a flicker of motion caught her eye. A figure moved just ahead in the dim light, slumped against the lockers. Jenna's breath hitched. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling against the shadows. The figure turned, revealing a disheveled girl, hair matted and eyes wide with terror. "Jenna?" she croaked, panic filtering into her expression. "Jenna, you have to help me." "What's happening? Where are the others?" Jenna stepped closer, her resolve digging deeper. This girl was real, she had to be. But almost instinctively, she could sense the darkness lurking close behind. "Who are you?" Jenna asked, her voice firm yet cautious. "Sarah. I was in the same class as you. They took us. The shadows took everyone. We have to get out." Sarah babbled, fingers trembling as she clutched the sides of the locker for support. But before she could reply, a low growl reverberated through the air. The temperature plunged, and Jenna felt a cold dread wrap around her spine like a serpent. A rush of wind burst through the corridor, extinguishing the flickering lights overhead. "No. Not again," Sarah cried, frantically searching for a way out. "They're coming." Jenna's mind raced. Her instincts screamed to run, but the shadows were already slipping closer. A figure began to materialize from the darkness, a tall, grotesque silhouette with long, claw-like fingers stretching toward them as though savoring the moment. "Run!" Jenna shouted, grasping Sarah's wrist and pulling her into a dash down the hallway. The doors on either side of them slammed shut as they ran, the pounding of their hearts matching the sound of heavy footsteps behind them. Each footfall was a countdown to something horrible. A door suddenly swung open to their left, light spilling out like a beacon in the night. This way. Jenna yanked Sarah inside just as the shadow lunged, missing them by inches. They stumbled into the classroom, and Jenna slammed the door shut, breathing heavily against the cool metal. The walls appeared to ripple in the harsh glow of the fluorescent lights. Desks were scattered haphazardly, and pages from textbooks fluttered like trapped birds. Jenna glanced around wildly, but the room felt empty aside from them. "Are we safe?" Sarah whispered, trembling as she backed against the wall. "I don't know," Jenna admitted, peering through the small window in the door. Shadows danced just beyond, waiting, but then, in the far corner of the room, a text message notification pinged from Jenna's phone, piercing the tension like a bolt of lightning. She glanced down. The screen lit up with a chilling message: "The truth is buried beneath fear. Find it before they find you." "What does that mean?" Sarah breathed, her eyes wide with concern. "I don't know. But we have to find out," Jenna replied, steeling herself. The shadows might be relentless, but the truth was the only thing worth fighting for. As the shadows began to scratching at the door, desperation filled her. Where could the truth be hidden? What if the answer was as dangerous as the horrors outside? And just then, shadowy laughter erupted, pulling at the corners of her sanity. "You'll never escape, you're already ours," panic surged. Jenna felt adrift as she looked at Sarah, determination hardening in her chest. "We have to go back." "What? Are you crazy? There's something we missed in the lab. Maybe it's the key. We just have to be brave enough to face it." As the darkness pressed closer, would they dare confront the very horrors that had ensnared their classmates? Would they find the truth, or would they be swallowed whole by the shadows of Maplewood High? With the walls closing in, they had no choice but to plunge back into the darkness. But what awaited them would test not just their courage but their sanity. The doorknob rattled violently as the shadows on the other side launched their assault like a relentless storm. Jenna's heart raced, and she clutched Sarah's arm tightly. "We have to do this. We need to find that lab. But they're right outside." Sarah trembled, her voice a quavering whisper. Jenna felt her own fear intensify, but this was their only shot, their last chance at sanity. "Listen." Jenna took a deep breath, the icy air biting into her lungs. "We can't just sit here. If we stay, they'll get in. We have to run and stick together, no matter what." The door buckled under the pressure of unseen claws. Jenna squeezed Sarah's arm, her gaze darting toward the windows. They were too high to jump from, and no way out but the door. Just as the door began to splinter, Jenna turned and yanked Sarah toward the room's only entrance. "On 3. She shouted, counting down in urgency despite the swirling dread tightening around them. 1, 2, 3. The door burst open, and Jenna propelled herself forward, bursting into the hallway with Sarah right behind her. They zigzagged through the darkness, dodging the claws that reached for them like hungry ghosts. The laughter followed, a manic echo swirling around them, empty and mocking. "There." Sarah pointed toward a flickering light at the end of the hall, a warm amber glow that felt like hope. With every ounce of energy, they raced toward it, ignoring the shadows that clawed at their heels. As they turned the corner, Jenna skidded to a halt. The glow originated from a large window. Beyond, the school's courtyard appeared serene and innocent, a stark contrast to the nightmare inside. But in the middle of the courtyard stood a figure wrapped in black, watching them intently. "Who is that?" Sarah gasped, her breath hitching. "I don't know, but we can't worry about that now." Beyond the figure in the courtyard, a chilling wind roared, extinguishing the light flickering in the hallway. Darkness swallowed them again. The air grew dense, oppressive. Jenna felt a weight crush her chest, panic clawed at her throat. "Jenna!" Sarah cried, fear coloring her voice. "Where do we go? What do we do?" "The lab," Jenna gasped. "It has to be connected to all this." She remembered the cryptic words on her screen. Time was slipping away like sand through her fingers. They plunged deeper into the maze of hallways, edging their way back toward the lab. Breathless and terrified, the laughter danced behind them, a sinister symphony growing louder. They reached the lab door, now foreboding, and locked tight. "Jenna!" Sarah cried, her eyes wide in terror. "What now?" Jenna glanced around, desperation setting in. The sound of approaching footsteps snaked closer, and she felt a pulse of adrenaline. "Find something to break it open." Sarah scoured the area, eyes darting. Her fingers gripped a metal chair, and she hoisted it above her head. "Here we go." With a swift, determined swing, she brought the chair down against the door handle. The sound echoed like gunfire in the hall, and Jenna felt her heartbeat quicken. She could almost feel the shadows retreat at the disturbance, but the door held firm. "Again," Jenna urged, glancing over her shoulder. Shadows rippled down the hallway like a wave, swarming toward them. With her newly found strength, Sarah brought the chair down with a second swing. The handle cracked, splintering wood beneath the pressure. One more blow, and the door bucked open with a sickening creak. "Let us go," Jenna shouted, rushing inside. They stumbled into the lab, a world of chaos and scattered papers, but nothing seemed terrifying, not yet. "Now what?" Sarah breathed, scanning the room. Papers lent disarray, something felt off. Before Jenna could answer, a colossal shadow darkened the doorway behind them. Heart pounding, she turned. The grotesque figure lurked just a step away, its twisted features almost human, but the smile, oh, that smile was something else entirely. In the split second before it lunged, Jenna saw it, a dull glimmer beneath the chaos of the lab. A small box, half hidden under a loose floorboard. That. Jenna pointed, horrified at the implications. "We have to get to it." But as they darted toward the box, the shadow roared, and the air around them felt electric. The truth was just within reach, yet the price they might pay was unimaginable. Would they uncover the secrets buried beneath their fear, or would they be lost to the shadows forever? As they reached for the box, whatever lay within it could change everything or destroy them entirely. Jenna lunged for the box, her heart pounding wildly against her ribcage as if trying to break free. The air crackled with tension, and she could feel the weight of the shadow pressing down on them, suffocating and thick. "Sarah, hurry!" she shouted, scrambling to pry the box loose. It was small, but the floorboard had warped around it, making it stubborn. Anxiety shot through her veins as she heard the pounding of the creature's footsteps, heavy and deliberate, echoing in the confines of the lab. "Almost got it," Sarah gasped, her hands fumbling to help. In a desperate surge, Jenna yanked the box free, pulling a sharp breath as she felt its cool surface against her fingers. But as she lifted it, the shadow-esque growl grew louder, reverberating through the room like a death knell. "There's something inside," Sarah whispered, her wide eyes fixed on the box. "What if it's dangerous? What's more dangerous, this or that thing?" Jenna shot back, her voice trembling with urgency. They had no time to debate. She needed to know what they were up against. With shaky hands, Jenna flicked open the latch. The box creaked, as if protesting the intrusion. Inside lay a collection of old, yellowed papers. She flipped through them, and her breath hitched. Diagrams, strange symbols, and scrawled notes in frantic handwriting filled the pages. Her fingers brushed over a particularly large sketch that depicted a monstrous figure, similar to the one looming behind them. "Look!" Jenna cried, pointing to the symbols. "They're connected to whatever's happening here." But before Sarah could process that information, the shadow lunged. Jenna instinctively shoved the box into Sarah's hands. "Get ready to run." They dove to the side as the creature crashed into the lab table, scattering equipment in a horrifying cacophony of glass shattering and metal scraping. Jenna felt the breath rush from her lungs, everything around them spun in chaos. "Which way?" Sarah screamed, her voice barely breaking through the noise. "Back to the hallway. We can try the other exit." Jenna pulled Sarah toward the opening they came from, but the shadow was already closing in, relentlessly pursuing them. Sarah glanced back, panic-stricken. "It's getting closer." They surged forward, desperation fueling their legs as they raced through the dark hallway. The laughter echoed again, twisting like a knife in Jenna's gut. "Just keep moving," she shouted. "Don't look back." They reached a door at the far end, a fire exit, marked with blaring red. Jenna yanked on the handle. It was locked. "No, come on." Her voice rose in panic, urgency spiking as she pounded against the door. Sarah fumbled through her pockets, fingers trembling. "I have my phone," she cried. "I can call for help." "No." Jenna gasped, her mind reeling. "We can't wait. We're so close." With a surge of adrenaline, she stepped back and slammed her shoulder against the door with everything she had. Breath hitching, she tried again. The door creaked but held tight. The shadow's presence loomed behind them, too close now she could feel its darkness wrapping around her. "Just give me one more second." As if fueled by her desperation, adrenaline coursed through Jenna. She rammed the door one final time, willing the universe to shatter the barrier between them in safety. The door buckled slightly, and that slight give was all the encouragement she needed. The creature roared behind them, deafening, and Jenna could almost feel the heat radiating from its form. With a wild determination, they both hurled themselves against the door, and it burst open with a crash that echoed like a gunshot. They tumbled out onto a dimly lit staircase, tumbling down with a flurry of limbs. As they hit the ground, the vile stench of decay assaulted them, making Jenna gag. "Which way?" Sarah panted, looking left and right. Shadows hovered at the corners of their vision, dancing in the flickering light. "Anywhere but back," Jenna said, fighting past the sickening aura. "The box." She remembered the drawings. There had to be something in them that could help. Just then, a loud metallic clang echoed. Jenna's heart dropped as she heard a heavy thud that shook the floor above them. "It's here." They scrambled to their feet, hearts hammering, and made their way down an unexpected hallway. They needed to find answers before it was too late. But as they rounded the corner, they faced yet another locked door. A brief, scarring thought flashed through Jenna's mind. What if there was no escaping this nightmare? With every ounce of courage remaining, she slammed her fist against the door, knowing that behind it, the truth awaited. Whatever horror lay beyond could be their salvation or their doom. Could they unlock the secrets trapped within and finally escape, or would they awaken something far worse from the darkness? Jenna pressed her palm against the cold steel of the door, panic rising like bile in her throat. She could feel Sarah's breath hitching next to her, caught somewhere between hope and despair. The dim light flickered ominously above them, and the shadows grew heavier, pooling like ink at their feet. "Is there some kind of lock?" Sarah was saying, frantically running her hands along the door's edge as if searching for a way through. I don't know." Jenna panted, her own frustration grappling with the fear clawing at her insides. "We have to get." Another thunderous crash made them jump, and they both turned instinctively, facing the direction they had come from. The sound sent chills racing down Jenna's spine. The creature's guttural growl echoed, a twisted promise of annihilation that rattled in the falls of the staircase. "Back to the wall," Jenna commanded, pulling Sarah with her as they pressed against the door. It felt like a feeble barrier against a rising storm. "Jenna, we can't just stay here." Sarah's voice was a tight whisper, edged with panic. What if it gets in?" The sound of clawed feet scrabbling against the floor intensified, punctuated by a primal, haunting laugh that chilled their blood. Jenna squeezed her eyes shut, willing herself not to give in to the terror. She remembered the box, the symbols, the drawings. They had to mean something. "Okay, think." Jenna's brain raced. What was in those notes? Maybe there's something we can do." She took a deep breath, slowly pulling the box from her pocket. Trembling, she opened it again to study the pages. The first was a diagram, a twisted figure that seemed to stare back at her. Dark, jagged lines sketched its outline, and as she followed them with her eyes, they formed a pattern that made her heart race. "The sigils!" Jenna exclaimed suddenly, a rush of clarity washing over her. "These maybe they can contain it." "Contain what?" Sarah asked, her voice wavering. The creature. The drawing, it looks like it's binding something. If we can replicate it, maybe. Before she could finish, the door behind them rattled violently, as if acknowledging their intention to fight back. The wood splintered under the weight of the shadow, and Jenna could see a dark tendril slip through a small gap, probing their space, seeking them out. "We don't have time," Sarah shouted, her face pale. "Now or never." "Right." Jenna grabbed a loose pencil from the floor, flipping through the pages until she found a blank one. She dashed the pencil along the page, trying to replicate the patterns shown in the symbols. The creature howled, a sound that dripped with rage and hunger, and the door creaked ominously as if threatening to give in any moment. "We need to act fast." Jenna pressed, her hands shaking as she drew. Just then, the door burst open, flinging shards of wood in all directions. The shadow engulfed the doorway, its grotesque form seeping into the room. The growl morphed into a roar, vibrating through Jenna's bones. "Jenna!" Sarah's scream snapped her back. "Now!" With one last stroke on the paper, Jenna pressed it against the wall, closing her eyes and whispering the first words she could remember from the notes. An unfamiliar energy surged through her fingers, radiating outward, mingling with the primal fear lodged in her chest. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. And then the air began to shimmer, bending like heat waves rising from black asphalt. A blinding light pierced through the shadows as a barrier flickered into existence. Jenna's heart raced with both horror and hope. The creature recoiled, hissing as it collided with her makeshift shield. "This might actually work," Sarah said, her disbelief shifting to excitement. But as they held their ground, Jenna suddenly felt a jolt of resistance from the barrier. The creature was pushing against it, testing its strength. Jenna clenched her teeth, straining to maintain the energy, but her vision blurred with every passing moment. "Don't give up," Sarah urged, but Jenna was losing her grip. With one final, monstrous roar, the shadow surged forward, and Jenna felt the connection slip. The light sputtered dangerously, flickering like a dying star as darkness clawed at the edges of her consciousness. "Jenna!" Sarah cried, but Jenna was already falling into a yawning void of shadows and screams. What had they awakened? Would the barrier hold, or would they be swallowed whole into the abyss? As Jenna's world faded, the darkness whispered promises of nightmares yet to come. Jenna fought against the suffocating darkness that enveloped her. It tugged at her mind, luring her deeper into its depths, drowning her in whispers filled with malice. The air was thick and stung her lungs, mixing her terror with the taste of dread. She pushed against the void, clawing at phantom walls that simply dissolved into shadows. Where was Sarah? Panic ignited again, and she shouted her name into the abyss. "Sarah!" Her voice echoed, distorted and echoed back at her, the sound unrecognizable. Moments stretched into an eternity as silence followed her call, amplifying the fear that coiled in her belly. Then, unexpectedly, the darkness flickered. A light, faint and crackling like static, pushed through the murky tendrils, revealing a tall figure standing in front of her. It was cloaked in shadow, its features obscured, but Jenna felt a strange pull toward it. "Come," it called, a voice fluid yet fragmented, like glass breaking. "You must find your strength." "Who are you?" she managed, voice trembling. "Your guide," it replied, stepping closer. A flicker of recognition sparked in Jenna's mind. The figure was the reflection of the twisted being they had encountered. But this was different. This presence wasn't threatening, it shimmered with raw, chaotic energy, as if the air around it crackled with possibility. "Strength?" Jenna echoed, willing her feet to move. "I can't do this alone." "Sarah, your bond, use it," the figure urged. "Draw power from each other, the fear will fuel you." The darkness closed in tighter, pressing at her sides, but the figure's light breathed warmth through her veins. Jenna blinked rapidly, grasping at the threads of the moment. "Sarah!" she shouted once more. "We need to fight together." A spark ignited in the distance, a beacon of light, bursting forth like firework shards. Sarah's voice drifted through the darkness, powerful and clear. "Jenna! I'm here. Fight!" Jenna's heart surged with hope, connecting the dots quickly. She felt the energy of their bond growing, weaving itself into a tapestry for them to hold on to. Together. Jenna cried, the light pulling her closer to Sarah. Suddenly, Jenna was back. The room materialized around her, but everything was surreal. The barrier blinked like a dying star, but now, they stood side by side, energy crackling between them, feeding the shield. Sarah's expression was fierce, full of determination. Did it work? Sarah gasped, panting, eyes wide as the creature lurked just beyond their edge of light, snarling and snapping. We'll make it work, Jenna declared, her voice rising above the chaos. She could feel the warmth of their connection flourishing as they each focused their energy. The dark tendrils lashed out, the creature's grotesque face twisted with fury. Jenna and Sarah shouted the sigils together, their voices harmonizing, pulling the words from deep within. The air responded, solidifying the barrier and pushing the creature back momentarily. Keep going, Sarah urged. I can feel it weakening. But as the creature retreated, Jenna noticed a thin, spiderweb-like crack forming next to them in the wall. The barrier was not only keeping the creature at bay, it was unraveling. We don't have much time, Jenna shouted, panic creeping in again. We need to strengthen it. Look. Sarah pointed to the symbols scrawled around the barrier. Can you draw more? Drawing on every ounce of courage, Jenna fumbled with the pencil, the crack widening by the second. With trembling hands, she sketched the intricate symbols again, but this time infused with the cathartic energy of their voices. The light pulsed vibrantly, then flared brighter. But the darkness wasn't done yet. The creature roared, its full weight now crashing against their shield, sending shockwaves through the room. Fear sizzled in Jenna's veins. Stay with me, Jenna screamed, both to Sarah and herself, as they leaned into their power. The barrier shimmered, solidifying into a brilliant wall of light. Then suddenly, it cracked. A huge chasm opened up, swallowing parts of the sigils Jenna had drawn. They were losing it. Draw again. We can keep it up, Sarah shouted, her eyes burning with adrenaline. With fear there, but with purpose ignited, Jenna's pencil raced against the paper, but she felt the abyss pulling at her hand, steeping fear thick in the air. Could they hold on long enough to finish the barrier? Or was the darkness preparing to reclaim them both? The shadows loomed ahead, and the eeriest of laughs echoed in the distance. The monstrous head of the creature appeared through the light, its eyes glowing with ravenous hunger. Jenna and Sarah were running out of time. A surge of cold washed over Jenna as she concentrated on the symbols. The creature's growls twisted into a sinister laughter that clawed at her sanity. Shadows danced around them, flickering like ghosts in the corners of her vision. The barrier pulsed, its shimmer was dying. Jenna, please. Sarah's voice trembled, and the vulnerability echoed deep in Jenna's core. Don't stop. With the echo of Sarah's plea resonating in her mind, Jenna's hand moved faster. The pencil pressed against the paper. She had to ground them, to tie their souls together in this fight. Each stroke was a lifeline she desperately clung to, but doubt seeped in, thrumming through her veins. What if we can't hold it? Whispered a darker part of herself, an uncertainty that ignited the fear wrapping around her heart. No, she shouted, shaking her head violently. We will hold it. The crack widened, darkness squirming through as tendrils reached for them, and the laughter grew louder, slithering into her thoughts. It threatened to drown out Sarah's voice. You can't save her. It snarled, manifesting a sharp claw that sliced through the barrier. Jenna gasped, realizing they couldn't just defend, they had to attack. We need to reflect its energy back. It's feeding off our fear. The clarity was sharp, like a bolt of lightning illuminating a foggy landscape. She grabbed Sarah's hand, intertwining their fingers. If we can amplify our bond, we can fight it. It can't take what it has no access to. Sarah nodded, her grip tightening, a fire igniting in her eyes. Let us do it, Jenna. Together. Taking a deep breath, they both opened their minds, letting their shared energy flood into the growing barrier, transforming it from a mere shield into a weapon. The barrier roared alive with vibrant light, a blinding wave cascading outward. The creature howled, a sound filled with fury and surprise, as the tendrils recoiled from the brilliance that in this moment, the darkness that enveloped them lost its grip. Jenna felt exhilaration wash over her like a wave, more potent than fear. She could see the creature fluster, a beast that thrived on despair now obscured by luminous defiance, but as that clarity sparked, an insidious thought pricked at her. They were not just standing against darkness, they were becoming it. In that illumination, intertwined with their power, Jenna could feel the whispering darkness twist, wrapping around her heart, momentarily seducing her. "Jenna!" Sarah shouted, yanking her back from the brink. "Don't!" The connection they forged vibrated fiercely. It was a jolt, grounding her back to purpose. "Right, we have to focus." With renewed determination, Jenna intensified her drawing, etching the symbols while invoking every positive thought, every cherished memory they shared. Each circle and line glowed with brightness, and the barrier surged. They were not just fighting back, they were reclaiming their space. The creature snarled wildly, rage pulsating from it like a dark storm. Its face twisted grotesquely, revealing jagged teeth glistening with malice. "This will be your end," it screeched, as it lunged forward, clawed hands piercing through the weakening barrier. "Now!" Jenna shouted, and they both shouted the words together, their voices harmonizing like a powerful anthem tearing through the chaos. The barrier erupted, and light burst forth, throwing the creature back with a force that shook the very foundations of where they stood. Seconds stretched long, time seemingly warping as darkness battled light. But then, amidst that chaos, Jenna felt the world shift. Cracks formed not just in the barrier, but in reality itself, a spine-chilling crack like thunder, ripping the air. Something horrifying surged behind the creature, an even greater darkness. Jenna's stomach dropped, her heart pounding as she glimpsed shadowy figures crowding in the periphery. What were those? Were they the true guardians or the fallen souls that had succumbed? "Jenna! It's breaking!" Sarah gasped, terror seeping into her voice, the shadows swarming closer. They had to finish this, but at what cost? As the creature lunged once more, Jenna's mind raced. Was their joint strength enough? Just how deep did this terror run? The final stand was coming. Would this be their downfall, or could they turn the tide before darkness swallowed them whole? Jenna felt her heart hammering fiercely as the light burst from their barrier, pushing back the malice that surrounded them. Time blurred, the essence of fear mixing with resolve as they fought to stay anchored to each other. She could feel the power coursing through them, the energy becoming a living thing that crackled in the air. "Together!" Jenna shouted, clinging to that single word that defined their will to forge ahead. The creature screeched again, its eyes seething with wrath as it collided against the barrier with ferocity, showering them with a whirlwind of darkness. Jenna raised her voice, channeling everything into her words, the sigils becoming a mantra of hope. "Push back. It can't have us." Sarah's urging voice blended seamlessly with Jenna's. Both girls felt an ancient weight rise within the words they spoke, forming a thread stronger than fear. The air shimmered and twisted, each invocation lifted a shroud of dark history hanging over Maplewood High. Suddenly Jenna caught a glimpse of the shadows lurking just beyond the barrier, figures that writhed and twisted, resembling lost souls trapped in an abyss. Their forlorn gazes haunted her and fueled her resolve. "We'll set you free," she declared, her voice cutting through the darkness, unwavering. "Use the drawings. Fill in the patterns." Sarah yelled as the creature seemed to falter momentarily, throwing them a sliver of kindness in its chaotic rage. Jenna gripped her pencil, each stroke laden with intention. She sketched wildly, breathing life into the symbols, words flooding from her heart and soul. "Let light and courage bind you." The barrier blazed as they intertwined their light with the sigils, the shard of hope reflecting from their connection. But the darkness lunged again, shaking the room as screams echoed. "Not like this!" Sarah shouted, and Jenna heard the rasp of fear creeping back. "We have to ground it. We can't let it take us." In that moment, with the creature roaring, a flicker of realization struck Jenna. The photographs. She gasped. They showed the souls trapped here. They need freedom. With renewed fervor, both girls envisioned the photographs, the faces of those once lost, channeling their courage and memories into the barrier. You will not claim any more lives. Jenna cried, her voice drenched in defiance. The air surged, the synergy between Jenna and Sarah swelled, amplifying luminosity. The shadows recoiled, snarling as the barrier pulsed, brighter vibrations shaking the essence of their reality. Closer. Jenna felt the heat of it approaching. But they would not falter. I can sense their fear. We need to share our strength. Sarah exclaimed. Their hands clasped tightly, the bond sparking with the might of a blazing sun. A blinding burst of light erupted from the barrier at their unity, the shadows hissing back, suddenly uncertain. We're coming, Jenna whispered, focusing on the lost spirits. We're coming to save you. In a fierce touch, Jenna's pencil sketched symbols for liberation, crafting a unifying design across their shield. The barrier shimmered, enveloping the trapped souls, and surging light filled every dark nook of the room. A final roar erupted from the creature as it lunged one last time, shadows clawing at reality's edge. But this time, its impact exploded against immense brilliance, unraveling darkness. The girls fell to the ground, breathless, as the light blazed so fiercely it washed over them, neutralizing the malevolence. The tumult faded, swirling into a tempest of radiant energy. Jenna opened her eyes to see the specters of the lost students break free, ethereal forms dissolving into light, their faces finally at peace. Jenna and Sarah stood amidst the remnants of darkness, heartbeats swelling in a calm that settled over the ruined lab like a blanket after the storm. They wandered through the flicker of energy that swept through the air, promising safety. I think we did it, Sarah breathed, tears washing fear from her cheeks, her hope renewed. Yeah, but Jenna paused, a lump rising back in her throat. What now? What's left of us? As if answering their question, the specters flickered once more, their faces radiating warmth, eyes glimmering with unspoken gratitude. The light surrounding Jenna and Sarah began to pulse, weaving whispers like a silken thread. Then a soft voice echoed a comforting presence. Return to the light. You have freed us. The shadows will not return. With a profound rush, the lab began to dissolve, the walls melting away like mist. Jenna clutched Sarah's hand tighter, both girls enveloped in the warmth of a rising dawn. As the light engulfed them, Jenna felt embers of memory spark, laughter, kindness, all that was good in them. Together, unshackled from fear, they soared towards the warmth, leaving darkness behind. And as they ascended into the dawn, Maplewood High shimmered below, no longer a prison but a sanctuary. The echoes faded, the laughter of freedom resounded across the vastness of time, anchoring in their hearts. They emerged stronger, forever marked but unbroken together, but even in their return, a new whisper floated among them. Are you ready for the next adventure? Leaving behind the darkness was only the beginning. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on exclusive stories that could change everything for you. Smash the like button now to show your support and feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What do you think happened next? And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.